Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fitness Fables and Fatherhood. This is Josiah, as always, joined by our co-host Erik the Blue. Erik, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, everybody.
All right. Well, today we will be discussing the book number 2 in Dungeon Crawler Carl's Doomsday Scenario. Erik's been on a tear with these, having read. What book are you on now?
Well, on the same one as you now. I think we're both on number five.
Okay. Um, is the second book a little bit of a precursor into today's episode, but is it the second book one of your favorites or one of your least?
Uh, I think it was the necessary next step. I really enjoyed, the development that we get into. I think last time when we talked, you described it, I think it was appropriately as kind of like a tutorial. And so now you're kind of entering the world, right? So it's definitely more advanced. So yes, I liked it.
Yeah, and you're actually given that in the introduction to the book, in the inside flap, where we are going to the Overcity, which is the third floor in this world dungeon, which is part of the sort of continuous story that has the audiences that are watching things um, sort of connected and is the uh, sort of starter for a lot of the secondary shows and storylines throughout the book. Um, and this book also asks a lot of hard hitting questions, I thought. Like, how can we make it to heaven if God doesn't recognize us? So, definitely some philosophical questions here, or really not. They don't go much into that. Um, that is a one-off completely. But I'd like to start today just by giving a little synopsis of the first book. So if you haven't read the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, I recommend that you click away, go read it. You'll probably be done in a week, and then come on back to watch this episode. But in the first, we are introduced to this sort of near future reality where our main character, Carl, goes down into a dungeon after the world has been claimed by an interstellar corporation, the Borant Company, which have mineral rights to the sort of um, heavy use minerals on the planet Earth. And there are individuals that have decided to go into the dungeon, individuals that have been taken in sort of a how would you say it? They are harvested
Yeah.
and sort of kept for other uses within the dungeon, and then a third subsect of people who are currently living on the destroyed planet's surface. Um, and if you're
Because they
able
were
to make
given a
it through,
choice. Yeah.
yes, you're given a choice to kind of stay or go into the dungeon. And um, those that have gone into the dungeon, if they make it far enough, they become galactic citizens and earn their freedom. So
Whatever
the
that
first
means.
book, yeah, whatever that means. The first book took place on floors 1 and 2 of said dungeon, and as you said, was pretty much sort of a tutorial, both for the characters and for us.
And it was
In order,
really like focused on the survival aspect. It was a survival game, right?
yeah, get to the next floor, kind of learn the mechanics of the world, and figure out sort of what and how you are supposed to move through this place, what this place is, and how you're supposed to move through it. Um, and that was my biggest gripe with the first book, that it sort of was very much a tutorial for the reader. So there were some pacing issues for me where things started to go a little slow, um, and get pretty repetitive. But I felt like a lot of that was actually corrected in the second book, but I have heard others say something else. So, if you'd like to give a little bit of a non spoiler introduction to book number two, then we can move on to some of the spoilers for this book and let people kind of move on if they need to.
Yeah, so I think you already kind of opened it up, right? That it moves from like this survival game to more of this um, sprawling city where now we have to consider how the quests and how these alliances, what happens along the way, how they affect the consequences of these characters. So, like we saw early on when Dungeon Crawler Carl uses his feet to smash bugs, he gets rewarded for that. And so now there are a number of different types of quests that can be accepted or passed upon, and there's going to be consequences for how the AI responds to that. So definitely a different evolving nature of the book.
Yeah, and we're introduced to quite a few new mechanics, and it seems like as you and I have moved on to books number three, and then four, and then now five, there are new mechanics to keep things fresh, sort of every book. In this book, you're introduced to a group of sort of non player characters, these NPCs called the Elites, who are members of these secondary shows, these like productions put on by like actors guilds and various production companies across the universe, because this is all being broadcast live to the galaxy, to the universe, and for their entertainment, where we are essentially reality TV. So you're introduced to these elites, you're introduced to the quest system. um, the party system starts to grow, and we start to get some other pieces to that as well. So
Well, and I thought that was like a beautiful way to introduce that, right? Because in the first book, it's all about, the survival, and it's this big, huge thing that has happened to everyone on Earth. And then
mhm.
this book comes along and it minimizes that because, I mean, this is just like a subplot compared to these other, streams that are ongoing. So the juxtaposition of that really minimizes the experience of Carl and the other Earth inhabitants.
Yeah, the addition of the overcity and of the overworld, and this secondary story of was Scalapentra, was that her name? And her nine-tiered attack and all of this. So with that, let's give everybody a second. If you haven't read the first book or the second book, we're going to be moving into spoilers. So feel free to mosey on out if you don't want to be spoiled. These books are entertaining, even if you know what's going to happen. So, like, I would recommend reading it again. I'm probably going to reread it again at some point in time. Um, so, go ahead and stick around if you'd like to. But we're going to move on to spoilers in a few seconds here. So, three, two, one, and spoilers. So, Erik, this book, as we've already kind of hinted at, had, in my opinion, much different pacing than the first book did. And I thought, for various reasons, that it was much better.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about the pacing of the book?
I mean, yeah, I really enjoyed the pacing of the first one that just threw you into the action. It was very intense and it was fast, moved from one area to the next, right? Um, this one, it brings it, yeah, you're right. It brings it back down. You're now immersing yourself within a world. It's a little bit slower. You're investigating how, where you want to go next, right? There's shops that you can go into. And so it's a whole different flavor of um, the experience of being in this world, and hopefully a world that you're going to continue to um, revisit. As I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but this book is where we also learned that these the patterns of the levels are repeated. So this level, I think, is what, level 3, and then it'll be what,
Mhm.
6 and 9, I want to say, are similar kind of
Yeah.
reflections of this.
Yeah. We learn that levels three, six, nine, I believe 12, 15, and 18 are all part of this sort of continuous arc that the audience is watching. So some of the characters from level 3 will present themselves in level 6, and then again in level 9, and so forth. Um, the the showrunners get to continue their shows throughout those levels. So yeah, we do find that out in this book, and we get a little more clarity on sort of how the levels work with the 18 different levels.
And as they progress with their characters, right? It's let RPG, so they get to choose different classes, and there's different abilities you have to consider, and so there's definitely some comedy and tone at choosing for what is it, the child actor class? Is
Yeah.
that this one? Yeah,
Hmm.
because then she gets discounts on all her wares, and she can use her charisma to be able to advance her character. So, something that maybe obviously wouldn't have been useful in the prior levels, but now it's apropos going in and trying to, talk with shopkeepers and get good deals and
Hmm. Hmm.
work on your fandom. I forget like how many thousands of viewers and fans they have at this point. But I really appreciated in the chapter titles where they would give you just a little glimpse into like how many people are watching them, right? And so it's this
Yep.
this social aspect that kind of comes into play.
Right, and you get to see their popularity grow from one chapter to the next to the next.
You get
I
the
appreciated the
leaderboards.
second book. Right, yeah. I appreciated the second book because it was more of like your traditional narrative, versus the first book, which didn't have much of a payoff. It was very sort of frantic and hectic, and you're moving from one step to the next, and you have this sort of game mechanic for the lit RPG to this game mechanic of the lit RPG, and this character pops up, and this thing happens, and like, and it's all being told to you relatively. I mean, I would definitely say the prose that Matt Dinneman utilizes is not very flowery. It's not very purple, as they say. Like it's very sort of mundane, like everyday speak.
Mhm. It's
But
accessible. That's probably why I
yeah,
like it because it's it's simple.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
accessible.
yeah,
And maybe this is the book series that's needed right now with the
yeah,
sort of reading drought and the fact that we have a literary crisis. I mean, we talked last
yeah,
sort of meeting on the first book that we don't necessarily recommend this for younger people, but shoot, in the day and age of the internet, young people are exposed to a lot of stuff. Maybe with the popularity of this book, it is something that like teenagers, if it gets them reading other things, sure. I don't think I'd recommend it still, but um, the the prose isn't super purpley, but he was constantly sort of reiterating how mechanics worked in the first book. In this one, we've kind of taken a step back from that slightly. We have these quests which have a introduction, a middle, a climax, and then a conclusion. So we do get some more traditional sort of narrative and sort of plotting to this book, where I feel like the Carl story, especially being a few books in, this is one massive book.
yeah.
Because one of the biggest complaints I've had for the first one was there was no resolution with anything. And it's like a just straight to the moon. We're going up, 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 up as we're building all of this tension, and all these different conflicts keep coming into play,
Yeah.
and nothing's really ever resolved.
Yeah. I actually appreciated that because for me, it put me in the mindset of Carl, right? It's all the anxiety, it's all of the angst you need. And yeah, so I think that like having the variety to, it means now more to me, especially now that he gives us such exposition in that. now I know that it's really important that these little clues that come in, these items that he picks up, right? Those are clues to us that, in future books he's probably going to use them. So don't forget, like, there might be there might be a bomb in his pocket that maybe he can use in a later day. So um, I really appreciate it, especially as I see like the lengths of the books also expand almost like Harry Potter, right? So
Yeah.
you know that there's going to be a lot of depth that comes later on. So I'm hoping for that, continued complexity to rise, and that there's going to be these tie-ins from early in the books.
It's funny you say that. My wife and I were literally talking about it just before I came downstairs, that like the Harry Potter books start so thin. Like the first
Mhm.
Harry Potter book is not very long, but you remember the
Yeah.
series as being massive,
Yep.
and then they progressively get longer, and that's how these books have been. Um,
Hmm.
I have the fifth one upstairs, but it's kind of an issue reading it. Like when you're trying to flip through, I'm
Well,
not a person who likes to break my bindings if I can avoid it, and like I feel like the papers are slipping in my fingers, like,
yeah.
but
Well, and
um,
I've even heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that ninth book might be published in uh, two bindings. It might be two separate books, like split in half.
yeah,
And
I
I don't
think
know if that's like intentional either for sales or intentional because of like what he's trying to do with like how big and how fat it gets as you go along, right?
well, Matt Dinneman said in an interview, and I think if I can find a clip, I might put it here, but he says, I I did this purposefully in the last book so that I can be a jerk and leave you at a cliffhanger. And I'm like, I
Well,
don't quite understand, because every single book is a cliffhanger because you're just moving on to the next level. And
yeah.
as I said, there isn't a lot of like conclusivity to any of the chapters or any of the books that I've read so far.
Yeah.
Spoilers moving forward into books 3, 4, and so far through 5. But there's he was quoted as saying that, and the books are enjoyable enough. I don't hold that against them too much.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Donut taking the child actor sort of, how would you say,
Is it a
class?
class? Yeah.
Yeah, for in this video game that they're playing. So let's kind of move on to characters. What did you think of the characters in this book, and did you have a favorite?
I mean, you gotta love Donut, right? Um, but yeah, like the elites were definitely like an interesting um, addition to this. And so I'm trying to remember what the name of the elite is. That's almost like I can't remember if she's like a satyr or something. Some seductive powers. She's almost like
Oh,
a
she's a
siren, I guess.
naiad, half she's a half high elf, half naiad,
That's
named
what it
Serena Signet.
is. Yep.
And but she's essentially not wearing clothes and pretty much takes on the role of like a succubus.
Succubus.
That's kind of
That's the word I was
that's kind
looking
of
at.
what they play her as. But I
Yeah.
think he might be kind of changing some of these because they're not like what is like common domain or available
Mm-hmm.
to be used by people.
Mm-hmm.
So he's slightly kind of changing how they work and what they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just interesting, like you've got another interesting component with your NPCs and these like living uh, storylines out beyond what the characters are doing, right? So we kind of learn about we're in the spoiler part, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
we find out that there's a circus going on, and there is a whole storyline going on with her and uh, what's going on within the tent. Um, so there's a relationship there that Carl exploits to be able to win the boss battle. But I feel like what's interesting is this is kind of like a metaphor for what else is going on just with these dungeons and these bosses in general, right? The world building. So as we get into which one is this one called again? This is Doomsday Scenario.
Hmm.
Yes. I got to make sure I'm not jumping into the next book. So, yes. Uh, so it's interesting because I feel like we get planted this seed that for a motif that can be used yet again in the future.
Did you did you appreciate the class selection aspect of this book with Carl and Donut?
Yeah, I mean it was comical. I'm trying to think because what does he select? Is it just the primal is his race, and then I can't
Hmm.
remember what he selects. The next one is.
He's a compensated anarchist.
Oh, he does. Okay. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Um, yeah, and I mean, like in the beginning, right, he is very astute to obey what Mordecai is telling him to do, right? He's going to be a
Hmm.
good player character, and he's he's going to do what the wise Mordecai is going to tell him. Uh, right? Donut just goes off on her own, and she somewhat listens and kind of does what she wants, and
Yeah,
um,
and she picks the sort of child actor. They pick the child actor um, class for her because Audette told them at the end of book one that they should choose anything that gives them the option to be or to have him remain as their manager.
hmm yep,
And
it's true.
he sort of tells Donut to choose a different class, but
Yeah,
Carl and Donut have
that's right.
already spoke about it to take the child actor class so that Mordecai has to stick around with them because he
And
would
he's
have been
pissed.
let free
Yeah.
after the fourth floor or at the fourth floor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This changes him from a guide, right, to the manager. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Yes. I forgot about that point. I'm happy you brought that back up.
Yeah, so he is now officially a semi-permanent character with the group, where he would have been able to get out after this book. Now he's stuck with
This
Carl and
level.
Donut moving forward,
Hmm
um, and her choice to do that, or hers and Carl's choice to do that, sort of keeps him around, even though there is some benefit to him because he'll get paid more depending on how well they do when he officially is set free because he's sort of immortal. He can't die. He can be injured and be quote unquote like killed
Right. But I'll
in
pop him out.
in the dungeon, but anything that happens to him, he like essentially gets pulled out before he dies in the real world.
And you start
Um,
to get like from context clues, right? Like a little bit of that backstory of Mordecai, and you see like he's drinking a lot. He's pretty depressed, and it seems like he's got pictures of I think it's his brother and
mhm.
others of his family that have obviously passed, right? So he's kind of resigned, although again he wants to get out of the dungeon, but we don't really get much more detail out of it other than just a quick glimpse behind the curtain for him.
Right, and he's been sort of helping he helps them, but in this book he sort of takes on that cretin persona. He's going from like bar to bar getting super drunk and then um, going around sort of taking advantage of the fact that he's now part of the world and can be out in it for personal pleasures. So
And you see those relationships outside of that as well, right? He knows people in the clubs. He has friends that he can go to, and where he can't
yeah.
get that information, at least he has access in other ways. Whereas before, as a guide, he had his whole, you know, like AI library, encyclopedia, if you will. Now he only has his own personal domain knowledge, but he's been around for so long that he can remember most items pretty well, even without that. So it's a
Right,
benefit and a
and
boon.
yeah, he knew the pharmacist at
Hmm
the Desperado Club, and
Yep.
by pharmacist, essentially their drug
Want
dealer.
some death sticks,
Um,
kid?
yeah,
Yeah.
so he gets some alchemy supplies there, and he starts making things for Carl and Princess Donut. But I liked the added depth to his character in this book.
hmm
Um, where there's definitely some backstory with him and his relationships with Audette and some of the relationships that he has in the dungeon with some of the NPCs and his experiences. So I think he was a good addition to
Yeah.
give some continual context and backstory, but he is also sort of your like Mary Lou sort of Gandalf character, your sort of guy in the back who always has the bit of context that you need to
Hmm.
move forward, like that character that keeps showing up.
Yeah, he's definitely got a little bit of, cynicism that's coming through. Now you kind of understand it like from a different perspective. Um,
Yeah. Do
and
you
then you're,
feel like? Oh, go ahead.
well, I was going to move on to other characters, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, do you feel like that sort of character trope um, is overused here? Like that, there's the Mary Sue. I think for the male side they call it like the Gary Lou or something like that. But like your Haymitch or your Gandalf, like the character
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't really do much
Hmm.
active in the storyline, but is a necessary piece for context for the reader to move sort of the plot along, but
I think
also
it.
to provide in backstory and insight.
I guess I didn't feel like it was too overused. I feel like, yes, you're getting different perspective, different lenses through whether it be like, the NPCs or these ones that are maybe a little more like living right within their storyline versus these human or but like these other worldly creatures who are still locked within the game, right? But it adds those layers of dimension to be able to give you a richer context of what, the realm is that they're living within, right? Your world is expanding and you get different flavors of, how to look at it. So no, I felt like it was necessary actually.
And you were going to ask before.
Because if you got too much out of one character, right? I think you'd be shoving it down your throat. But if you layer that in with different little perspectives, so you can kind of question certain pieces in different ways, rather than relying on one voice to kind of give you that outside perspective.
Yeah,
And yeah, and maybe this kind of ties into like other characters, right? Because I'm trying to think back to this one because we're starting to interact with some other groups. I know that we meet Bautista, I believe, like earlier on in this one, and he's kind of one of these like flyback characters that you're like, you get a quick interaction and then that's
hmm
it, right? But like those are those little clues that get dropped that you're like, ooh, this guy might be like might be important, and like, do we care about like how these relationships are primed for in the future? Is this going to turn him into a villain? How are these relationships, these alliances, going to be used? And so, as you're reading into, even like the NPCs, as you're introduced to them, right? You're trying to discern whether or not these are friendly agents or villains that you're going to be fighting, and how does the environment interact. And so you've got these kind of interesting little battles where um, you'll get introduced to the scene. One of them is there's like a kid throwing, what is it, rocks at a lizard or something. I can't remember. There's a kid playing with a lizard, right? And like this whole battle ensues eventually, and kid's arm gets ripped off, and like, but there's like this kind of richer dimension with the others. So again, like I'm trying to think who are the other like main characters that we get introduced to. Do we get
Katya
introduced to
Grimm
Hecla? Yeah, yeah, Katia,
and Hecla.
the
So
daughters. Yep,
Hecla is on Audette's show with
yep,
them,
that's right.
and she sort of requests that they take care of this woman Katya Grimm, who was separated from
That's right.
Brynhilde's daughters,
Hmm.
and sort of Mordecai takes her under his wing. So
Hmm.
yes, we do get introduced to Katya in this book.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing, right? Because I mean, they've been pretty much like on their own solo group, and so to be introduced to and starting these alliances,
Hmm.
kind of interesting like mentorship or nurturing relationship where that hasn't been Carl's forte in the past, right? Like as a
Hmm.
normal everyday uh, character, this is not within his wheelhouse. So
Right. And you're getting a breadth of these characters where, as you said, everyone has to love Donut, but Donut is, you're getting the sense of putting on a persona in this book. And she even has a quote towards the end where she says, like, I'm not an idiot, Carl. I know she's dead.
yeah,
And
depth juxtaposed against this like the child mentality of her, the excitement, the overly
yeah.
excitement, like the over trustingness, right? Sometimes of
Hmm.
her. Yeah.
And you're getting these different sort of pieces where, like in the first book you had like Lee Nan, Lee Jun, and the fact that Carl and them kind of helped save them, get them out of a sticky situation. You have Bautista who shows up. He's the one who has the line about how do we get into heaven if God doesn't recognize us.
Hmm.
um, so you have this brooding sort of character, and in the book you find out that his family has all died, um,
Hmm.
because they happen upon a bunch of corpses of these crawlers, and they all have the same last name of Bautista. And he has sort of this persona, but that's also juxtaposed by the fact that he looks like sort of a knockoff of the Thundercats, where he's got this crazy mane thing, and he looks all weird, and sort of cartoonish because he took on this tiger form, and that's where what he's referencing is the fact that they don't look the same, even
Hmm.
though 80% of the people chose to remain as human.
Hmm.
And the AI or someone makes a comment about how even the 20% that chose to change is the most they've ever had of
Hmm.
any show
Like
run.
realm. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've done this on other planets before. And that even is kind of in a backwards way sad because,
Interesting commentary.
right, humans and us in our current state in the world like aren't satisfied with sort of what we are and where we are,
Yeah.
um, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
What you project out, right? Social,
yeah.
like to the social. And that kind of plays into like the chat thread, which is really kind of a beautiful way to be able to get that inner dialogue while yet being able to interact with the other characters because that chat thread can only be seen like they make a point about that where they only, if you do the handshake and then you can interact via chat. Uh,
So that might be the next one.
Might be okay. All right. I thought they did because of how they were interacting with Katia and and her group, right? The daughters of.
Well, so she meets Katya. She's just in their safe house when they get back.
Got it. I thought they made comment or like I thought you could at least infer that because I thought that she was there's indications that she was yeah, chatting or texting like with them.
Yeah, but she
But
used to be with them like
yeah,
prior, so she
yeah,
was
yeah,
part of their party. Like,
yeah.
um,
But
there
kind
is
of.
there is some hints at being able to talk to others because at the end there's that group quest, and
Yeah,
like then there becomes like a quest chat, and everyone
right.
starts yelling at Carl.
That's fair. Yeah. Yep. But
So I
even
don't
like,
know.
yeah,
It's not a big spoiler, but I
right.
think that takes a much more prominent role in the third book.
That's fair. Yeah. But even just like that idea of how they're starting to show up for and be more performative for the AI. That's
Hmm.
not a huge part, but like you get little glimmers of that, and I think that the choosing of that class of the child actor, I think was a really smart, um, foreshadowing, right, for what's to come as you start looking at like the social dynamic of not like the show, right?
Right. And she it's a way to keep things fresh because she gets new abilities every single floor with that
Yeah,
class. Like she gets
yep,
to essentially repick
Yeah.
every floor sort of a new set of abilities.
Well,
Uh,
and you're creating, yourself. And so like that comment about um, you know, donut and I'm not an idiot, right? Like was really
mhm.
really resonated because it's yeah, the sense of like what you're choosing to put on versus the concept like the situation around you. Right.
Right. And that's if you go back and watch our first review, that was my biggest complaint. There wasn't a lot of character development, there wasn't a lot of plot. It was all this introductory stuff, and it was funny and it was entertaining. But this book, you start to get some of that. You get the Mordecai sort of being this depressed. There's some baggage with Mordecai and his
Yeah.
past and his brother, and he's drinking and he's sort of trying to quiet the inner demons through these vices. Then you have the realization that Donut isn't this sort of 100% naive child. She's got some depth to her. Carl has probably the least amount, and he is a bit of like I wish he was portrayed a little bit more as your everyday man, but
Hmm.
he is. I mean, he has this background, and I think the Coast Guard was probably a good choice for
Hmm.
him, because he's got like these mechanical sort of traits. He knows how to build things. He has some background with
Hmm.
like explosives and with things that like
That does make sense, more sense. Yeah.
yeah, like ammunition and stuff like that. He and in the Coast Guard, like I'm sure, like there's some diving stuff that has to happen, and there's probably some explosives knowledge there if you have to
Hmm.
like disarm a mine or something like that. Um, so I think it was a good choice without making him like a Delta Force,
Yeah.
Black Ops, Navy SEAL.
And I was going to say, even like, when you think about like all the different areas he could have been in, I mean, I feel like the Coast Guard is probably the most benign, like it is as
Yeah.
opposed to even like the National Guard. Like this, it has a definitely like a protective quality, right? Like Coast
Hmm.
Guard goes out to save people, and I think that's the thing that like resonates with me is that like Carl, he has like this instinct, right, to be um, you know defensive of players, and so
Hmm.
he's definitely defensive of Donut, but like we'll kind of see how this then plays out um, as it goes along. So
Right.
also just telling in the way in which he defeated the boss in the boss battle, right? Definitely a
Yeah.
um,
Well, and let's
emotional
let's
growth and yeah, yeah.
let's get into some of the plot stuff. Um, so we had the quests, which we both agreed were sort of a nice little addition. Um, what was your like main takeaway from all of the different plot pieces, all the different various story arcs that were coming up throughout this? Like, which, if any, were your favorite? And sort of moving forward, what do you feel like is your what are you excited about?
Yeah. I think so the bear, there was the battle with the bear on roller skates, right? And you've in the background you've got Donut in a little cage, and as Carl and I can't remember if this was again a happy accident, but I think it was one of the scratch off tickets, right?
Yeah,
That he uses, and I think there was like some chance of something like a big fireball and some chance of like I don't know, something else. And I think wasn't it like custard or something like that? It was like
yeah,
some kind
yeah,
of accident, but it was like a healing salve, I think. And
yeah, yeah.
so again, like just the little bit of comedy, but this custard goes on and it actually heals this bear who was infected with worms, right?
Hmm.
And the worms we find out if it gets in like the voices of the kind of hive mind infect you. And so it was really interesting to see that piece where he heals the bear and the bear is suffering and puts the bear out of its misery. um, and so for me this is kind of a telling way in which we should look at the world, that it's infected, and we see that duplicated again when we kind of go to the city boss. Um, so again, it's kind of a rooted system within this circus, right? And then you think about, okay, how this whole world is almost like a circus, right? So just the fact that um, they've got these tensions with, and see, I'm kind of losing track of who is the main character to the elite. I can't remember if it was um, were they battle buddy? Like, I can't remember if it was family. Was it the father to the elite?
So,
Who is the main boss?
like the husband.
Oh, it was the husband. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So
And the husband
Serena,
was infected. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, you have the two, like you said, the two sort of parallel stories. You have the
Yep.
quest, and then you have what's going on in the city.
Yep.
So they stumble upon that circus, and you learn about Skolopendra's nine-tiered attack, which is like very anime in how it's sort of described. But there's this thing underground. It's like a giant worm or something,
Hmm.
which, and this is what kind of carries over across the different levels, that sort of continuous storyline. But something happens, you don't know what, but for some reason this thing attacks like everything all at once and releases this attack on the overcity. And there's nine different things that happen. Some people like go sort of 21 days later, yeah, 28 days later, like the rage, and they get very angry. Some people like transmorph into something else, like transfiguration into another sort of being. That you have all these things. Some people just died. Some people had nothing happen to them, but there were nine different things that could happen. That's why they call it a nine-tiered attack. And this circus was turned into a uh, sort of large worm infested vine plant thing.
Hmm.
And Serena Signet was gone when it happened. She wasn't present. And she was married, or like the lover of the sort of circus ringmaster Grimaldi.
Yep.
And the whole uh the whole story was like the revenge of the daughter,
Hmm. Yep.
and you don't know what exactly that means until later, because you find out she is in this. It might be in this book, so sorry if I'm spoiling like future events, but I believe you're told she's like the daughter to some like royalty.
Hmm. I think you are. Yep.
Yeah, but that isn't played off in this particular quest.
Yep.
And the bear that you were talking about is the like old is the bear from the circus,
Hmm.
and her name
Yep.
was Heather.
Yep. Yeah. So kind of
Um,
a, and to me again, like kind of interesting because it juxtaposes against the first boss that we encountered that was, this was a human that was repurposed from the crash to become kind of this bug spitting boss, right? So it's again kind of killed with some empathy, and then here again you kind of have a repeating, but then here in this case, the bear is one of your NPC
mhm,
characters, and so it helps draw these like disparate ties together to give you that feel of empathy for not only those who are you know like real people, if you will,
mhm,
as well as these like NPC characters, which from the first book we in that Pineapple Express, we're starting to get just a little glimmer of. There's some life behind the eyes of these NPC characters as well.
mhm.
So again, interesting when you consider, we haven't even talked about Gum Gum, right?
Right.
Gum Gum's quest, and this was like an early interaction with Carl where Gum Gum's what, like an orc. I think she was an orc prostitute, something like that.
She's
Uh,
I don't think
I
she
can't
is.
remember.
She's just an orc.
Just an orc. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right, right. But she's like investigating. There have been these um, prostitutes that have been slain and
Yes.
like left about. And so Gum Gum goes to try to recruit Carl and the team to be able to help investigate this. And so, uh, uh, you know, there's kind of a denial of the quest and then an acceptance of the quest.
Yeah.
Mordecai doesn't want them to, waste their time kind of going through one of these type of quests. But here again, it's telling in how Carl responds to that, and he wants to help, and so he kind of says screw it, and he engages here. So
Hmm.
for his caring not only for um, you know whether or not he cares, right? That question with the other humans versus like how much he cares about the feelings of these NPCs. So, and it, yeah,
And it definitely starts to shape his. I mean, he took the class of the compensated anarchist, but he's starting to really sort of embody that through these interactions where he's realized that the NPCs they they're real in a way, and they have like these implanted backstories on them, both Gum Gum and the Serena Signet and some of the others. And he essentially starts to just think, hey, these characters are better off dead. Um, and that is really starting to form sort of his mentality towards this whole thing moving forward, where, like you said, he kind of crushes the skull of the bear after he heals the bear, but then he sees this sort of fear and like pain in the bear's eyes as it becomes itself again after being taken over for so long by these worms. And these worms are sort of a parallel to what's going on with the general NPCs and these backstories, which you get a little more into with the pineapple cabaret at the end
yeah,
with everybody. But yeah, Carl, he goes behind the backs and has sort of a an odd way of solving these quests as he sort of blackmails the production company of the Serena Signet Revenge of the Daughter story to keep him around, and then goes behind the back of the deal that he made and does something completely different, but it's good for ratings.
hmm
So you have that happens, and then on the other side with Gum Gum and the prostitutes, and they start to figure that out, and the dark cleric over the city, um, and that all culminates with him creating a nuclear weapon and storing it in his inventory, um, as both
almost
he
ready
and
to explode. Like
yeah, it is
fuse is
literally
lit.
yeah, it is literally a second from going off, um, but he stores it in his inventory, and it's named Carl's Doomsday Scenario, which is the name of the book.
Mhm.
But as he and Donut sit there at the end, as this thing's about ready to go off, just ready for the end to come, and then nothing happens.
Yeah,
Uh,
brilliant, right? Like he's got all the power, and he might not even know like how powerful that is.
yeah. Did you? What did you think of the? Oh, maybe this is the second book, so we'll talk about this in the next recap because,
In book three.
um, yeah. So everybody gets through, and you are introduced to a character, Quan Ch,
Mm-hmm.
who is a kind of tells Carl to go f himself as he is running away because all of these characters, all of these player characters, these crawlers, are pulled into the quest because this explosion is going to blow up the entire city.
Hmm.
So they all have to get to the stairs by a certain time, and they're all kind of roped into Carl's quest.
Yeah.
But
I can't
given,
remember.
yeah,
Oh, I was just going to ask for the pineapple cabaret on this one. Is this one the llama?
this is the llamas, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, that was also kind of telling too, because I think there was a line in there that where Grandma Llama says something about like um, they're almost wiped out, right? And so, as you think about like who these non-player characters like really are, and knowing that like it's possible for when they do the crash that they sometimes harvest, they use some of the
Mm,
natives, if you will, to repurpose them as bosses. It kind of gives you some questions as to how non-player charactery they are, like how real they are, right? Like, um,
right.
I think we assume in the beginning, right, the first book, that they're just like made, just like how this dungeon is made. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, just a nice little step along as
Yeah.
you come to wonder about like these relationships.
Well, and Grandma Llama remembers a different past. Like
Mhm.
she remembers she was a guardian of like a temple at one point in time. So you get the sense that these, as you said, these characters, they're indentured servants, just like Mordecai, but at a sort of lower tier. So, did you have any final thoughts on the book, on Carl's Doomsday Scenario?
Really loved it. Uh, Entertaining, well paced. Um, yeah, I liked that there was a variety in like the different types of battles as well. I thought there was a lot of like there was like dramatic surprise, there were new elements, like yeah, the world building was really great. So, going from one to two, very pleased. I can't even remember what I ranked it in terms of how many stars for number one, but number two, I definitely say probably like an 8. Eight,
That might be worse than what you gave the first one. Um,
9, 8 or 9. Yeah.
okay. Which one did you like better? This one or the first one?
Oh, you can't compare it because it's all the same, right? You said it. It's all one book. So to get introduced, I think the first one was a little bit jarring, and I think it was a little bit like as you're trying to enter the world and the mindset of like, what is this thing? There's definitely like that uh, uh, grace period where you have to give yourself to like kind of get into it. But when you do,
Mhm.
it kind of get past maybe some of those things that normally I wouldn't like read. Um, I'm already primed now, and so that makes number two actually better. So whatever that last rating was, it was definitely a step up. Put it that way. I don't want to
I
give it a 10 yet because I feel like we're still building, so I got to be able to give more stars for future ones.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I agree. I felt like the pacing was good in this book. I felt like there was more payoff in this book. I would give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. Um, and I look forward to reading the next few. I mean, I read the next few already, but like it definitely kept me hooked. So solid 8.5 out of 10 on this one. If you were kind of iffy on the first, read number two for sure, and make a call after book number three. But at that point, you've read thousands of pages. You might as well just finish.
Yeah. You will have to finish. If you're not into it now, I think that you can make well maybe the next book. Yeah.
So, any
Yeah,
final
they've
thoughts,
only given
Erik?
oh read the next book, right? Like
Yep.
what are you doing? And buy the real paperback book. Don't get it. I don't know. You listened to I think one of the audiobooks. I haven't normally I'm the
This one.
audiobook king. Like I do all audiobooks. So you've made me a
Yeah.
convert. Now I'm all physical books again.
Yeah. And that's good. Like I do think there's something additive to the experience with the audiobooks here, but this was the only one of the four and a half that I've read so far that I did do audiobook for.
Mhm.
So book one, hardcover, book two, I did both. I had the hardcover book and would read, and then I was taking a class at the same time. So on the drive to and from, which was an hour each way, I would listen to it. And there is the narration is great, as well as like there are some names I definitely read differently. Like so,
Mm.
Quan at the end in the narration is Quan ch, even though
Mm.
the book it's just like Quan and then a c and a lowercase h, so like almost
Yeah.
Quan
I
sh.
thought yeah, I thought it was Quan Chi. I think I said to myself Quan Chi. Yeah, but
Yeah, and in the narration it's
Quan
Quan
Chi.
ch, and
Mm.
in the book I always read it as Odette, but in
Mm-hmm.
the narration it's Audette.
Audit. Mm. Yeah.
So I I'm not a big stickler on that stuff, but there was some differences there. But
Yeah.
this is the one that I did sort of listen to and read simultaneously.
Yeah. Cool. Were there any, I think you mentioned last time that there was like a different pineapple cabaret, uh, anything that you'd add from this one? I can't remember if you already told us about it. Remind
Maybe so.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one doesn't have the pineapple. So if you listen to the book, it doesn't have the pineapple cabaret at the
Hmm.
end. It has sort of like an advertisement slash news show sort of recording. I think I'm trying to remember it correctly.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's yeah, it's like a news station recording from the world. Nothing really additive at all. It's sort of
Okay.
like
You just
nothing
get
important
another
to it.
layer. Yep, there's like other stuff going on.
Yeah, like there's
Okay.
something going on in the background.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
have
that
you
this is
read,
all.
I feel like didn't I might have seen that there's like another podcast or something that like adds maybe another dimension, or maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Maybe. I mean, I know he has a um like the what are they called? The narrator has a company. And I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but
Yeah.
they did, I believe, like a large production of it, which you
Okay.
can buy chapters of online. Um, and I think I sent you one because I initially thought it was free, but
Mm-hmm.
only one chapter was free. The rest of it you have
Okay.
to purchase, but you
Okay.
can buy the individual chapters.
Okay.
And I think it's a more produced version of the audio narration. I
Yeah.
think.
Maybe it was from our last uh discussion. I was thinking that like there was like additional content that might add in from like different perspectives, but yeah, maybe not. I'll have to look. That'll be probably after I get through the all the books. I'll probably look into what else there is.
Right.
Cool.
All right,
I
man.
think
Well,
that's it for book number two. It's amazing to say that we're only reviewing book number two when we're on five. We will definitely have to spend some time on catching up on book threes and four. Uh, and yeah, what are we reading right now? Let's see, book number three, Anarchist Cookbook. And then we're going to go to Gate of the Pharaoh Gods. And then we're reading right now The Butcher's Masquerade. So maybe one thing to ponder as we go into our next one. What do the skulls mean on the book bindings? Because they don't seem to associate with Carl. Obviously, he doesn't have any skulls, right? So even on the first one, we've got three skulls with two colored in. Uh, is that boss battle skulls? These aren't like human skulls, or is it supposed to mean something else?
I think it's just a way to show which book it is. Like, because on the second one, there's
Oh,
two skulls colored in
are
that
they
are white,
colored?
and then one
Yes,
dark one, and then like the book three has three skulls, but they're all white, and then book
got
four,
it.
four of them. I don't know
So
what
it's
the
the
additional
white
two are.
skull indicates which book it is. I
Right.
was looking at it the inverse way and I was like, that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah, I don't know why they added the like dark skulls. Like I haven't figured that out. But
I wonder, I feel like that's a clue. I feel like I might have to look into this further.
all right.
All
Well,
right.
I will see you later. Let's try to figure out a time to talk about book number 2 or book number 3. Oh my god.
That's right.
All right, Eric. I'll see you later.
Adios.